Good morning and welcome to the Cisco Networking Academy. This is the first of a series of 3 semester classes that will comprise of the Networking Academy, and at the end, your student will have an opportunity to test for a certification in networking. So let's take a look. So the fall semester is Introduction to Networking, Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials. The spring semester is Enterprise Networking, Security, and Automation. This is all part of the learning pathway from Cisco in networking. It's a comprehensive curriculum that prepares students for our very complex connected world. The first part of it is IT Essentials. Most of the students in this class have already taken IT Essentials. I think the rest are currently enrolled in it. That's a good foundation just for basic computer knowledge. These 3 courses, these semester courses, are specifically related to networking. So let's take a closer look. As you can see, this is kind of an overview of just part of the Cisco Networking Academy, the learning and career pathways. It's pretty impressive when you really look at it. This is the IT Essentials part of it. You'll notice that it's kind of grayed out and it's off to the side. IT Essentials certification is actually a CompTIA A+ certification. It's not a specific Cisco certification. It is an industry certification, and it is an entry level into being an IT professional kind of a certification. The courses that we're in right now are these 3. All right, and you'll notice that there is a certification at the end of it. That is the CCNA, an industry standard. If you know anything about, well, I would venture to guess that if you look in most offices, most medical buildings, most, schools, if you open the cabinet and look at their networking, you're going to find that a vast majority of those tools are Cisco. So Cisco is kind of an industry standard in networking, and their certifications are extremely valuable. They pretty much guarantee a job with Cisco or with any of the hundreds of thousands of companies that use Cisco products. So the 3 classes we're doing now are Introduction to Networks. The next one, which is the Switching, Routing, Wireless Essentials, and then Enterprise Networking, Security, and Automation. From there, students have the ability to go into all of these other areas. I went to a conference and they talked a lot about data and Python and what an incredibly powerful tool that was. DevNet, Linux, all these things are industry, the backbone of the industry. And then you get into the really interesting things, the Internet of Things, security, cyber ops. So lots of opportunities for growth beyond these 3 classes, but you'll notice that these are the foundation for all of those other opportunities. So Introduction to Networking, it covers architecture, structure, functions, and components of the internet and other computer networks. Students gain an understanding of how the networks operate, and they also build them. They build a simple local area network in LAN and perform basic configurations for routers and switches. They will do this both virtually, and when we are in the classroom, they will do it with real tools. So the Introduction to Networking covers configuration of switches and devices, physical data link protocols, configuring. You do a lot of configuration of routers and switches, addressing schemes, explaining how the upper layers of the OSI model support network applications, so supportive network applications. They will configure a small network, and security is a huge part of that, and troubleshooting. So building, testing, configuring, and troubleshooting, and security. are things that will be repeatedly examined in this course. So the switching, routing, and wireless essentials is the next semester. That will be in the spring. And this one covers architecture, components, and operation of routers and switches, specifically in small networks, and introduces wireless local area networks. You can imagine how important that is, especially right now. Everything that we do in computers is based on wireless technology these days. And again, security, you're going to see that a lot. Students are going to learn how to configure and troubleshoot, again, that magic word. Routers and switches for advanced functionality using security best practices to resolve common issues with protocols in both IPv4 and IPv6 networks. I'm not going to go into what IPv4 and IPv6 networks are. Your students can explain that to you this spring. So at the end of that course, your students are going to be able to configure VLANs and inter-VLAN routing, again, applying security best practices, troubleshoot VLANs, configure redundancy. Doesn't this sound crazy? I would have never known that we could do this in high school, but we can. Troubleshoot Ethernet, explain how to support available and reliable networks using dynamic addressing and first hop redundancy protocol. Doesn't that just sound cool? A year ago, I had no idea what that was. Now I do. Configuring dynamic address solutions, WLANs, WLCs, configure switch securities, again, security, that magic word, and IPv4 and IPv6 static routing on routers. So a little bit about the curriculum. The curriculum is developed by Cisco. It's a solid curriculum. It's very well written. It has a lot of resources. There's lots of videos and examples throughout as your student goes through. I have given students a hard copy of the overview, and so they will be going through and watching, reading the rest of the text and watching the presentations. But it also has some really powerful tools. So the first tool is called Syntax Checker. Syntax Checker is a way to practice command line interface. Command line interface is the language that you have to speak to the computer, to the router, to the switch to get things set up. It's a very specific language. It has very little, well, it has no tolerance for error. If there's an error in what you enter, it won't accept it. Or worse yet, it might do something that you don't want it to do. So Syntax Checker is like the first line of practice when you're learning this new code, this new command line interface. And what it'll do is it'll tell you to do something. So like on this example, it says enter interface configuration mode for VLAN. It's VLAN 1. It's a simple little code to get into it, and then once you successfully do that, it'll show you the next task that you need to do. It won't let you go on until you get it right. If you get frustrated, you get to do the show me, and then if you really get frustrated, you get to do the show all, and then hopefully what you do is you reset and you go back and you practice it until you get it right. It's a great little tool. So the next tool is Packet Tracer. Packet Tracer is amazing. It is a simulation. It can be a network as small as a couple of computers, or it can be as big as this one, and big and complex. And the way it works is that it gives you an overall task to do. It gives you the steps that you need to do. It's pretty forgiving. It will show you how, if you are correct, it'll show you how complete you are. You can go in and you can check where your errors are. So it's intended to be a learning tool. It's a very realistic, but in reality, you can't go in and ask the system to tell you where you went wrong. You have to figure that out on your own, and we'll get to those simulations in just a minute. But what happens is, this is pretty much what you would see on a typical packet tracer activity. You would also get a document telling you what to do. You literally just click on these different pieces of equipment depending on what you need to, and what pops up is a screen of different options: the command line interface, the actual computer screen, and some other configuration opportunities. So it's a great tool. So after that, we have our labs. Okay, well, in the best world, we'd be in our classroom and we would have something similar to this, an actual network that we would be working with and plugging and unplugging and configuring and testing. I'm hoping that in the months to come, we will be in the classroom and we will be able to do this. In the meantime, we have been given an opportunity to use something called NetLab. Another school that has NetLab is letting us kind of like use their lab. And NetLab is kind of in between Packet Tracer and the real thing. It's like the interface looks like Packet Tracer. So in other words, what you see on your screen are these icons that show what you're working with. The difference is that you are actually controlling a real network. So in order to use NetLab, you have to schedule time. You have to have your window of time scheduled because you can't have a whole bunch of people doing configurations to a network at the same time. So you schedule your time, you go in, you have your task to do, and just like Packet Tracer, you pull up the different things and tell it what to do, and hopefully it gets right. You get it right, and you test it in the end. You ping from one end to the other, and everything's communicating. The difference between this and Packet Tracer is that Packet Tracer, like I said, is very forgiving. It's not it's a simulation. This is not a simulation. This is, you are putting in commands that are controlling actual equipment. So it's pretty cool. So we do have that opportunity in the meantime. So this is a quick overview of the pathway. This is what I was talking about in the very beginning. IT Essentials is you can test for the CompTIA A+ certification. This is where we are this year, these two courses. This is the third course, and students that are juniors will take this third course next year. Students that are currently seniors, this course is available at a number of community colleges that we are working very closely with, so that when we get closer to the end of this year, seniors can transition seamlessly to get this final course and hopefully go on and take further courses for further certifications. This is who I am. I'm Jennifer Sorbara. That's my email. And if you have any questions, or if you are in the industry and would like to come visit us when it is safe to do so, we would love to have you. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this most unusual back to school night.